The year is 1938. Deep inside the Hanomag manufacturing complex in Hanover, Germany, something unprecedented is taking shape. The air is thick with coal smoke and the acrid scent of welding torches. Sparks shower from overhead cranes as they lower massive steel plates onto assembly lines that stretch the length of football fields. This is not an automobile factory anymore. This is a forge of war. The Sd.Kfz 251, Sonderkraftfahrzeug 251, is about to change the face of mechanized warfare forever. Before this moment, infantry moved on foot. Vulnerable. Exposed. Slow. But the German High Command had a vision. Soldiers who could ride into battle behind armor, dismount under fire, and fight alongside their tanks without ever losing momentum. They needed a vehicle that could cross trenches, ford rivers, and absorb machine gun fire while delivering a squad of panzer grenadiers directly into the teeth of enemy positions. They needed the Hanomag. Walk through the gates of the Hanomag plant, and you enter a cathedral of industry. The main assembly hall rises 5 stories high, its iron girders blackened by decades of soot. Sunlight filters through grimy skylights, casting diagonal shafts of dusty illumination across the work floor. Everywhere, men in grease-stained overalls move with purpose. There is no wasted motion here. Every rivet, every weld, every bolt serves the singular purpose of creating a machine that can survive hell. The Sd.Kfz 251 begins as raw steel sheets, imported from the Ruhr Valley where Germany's industrial heart beats strongest. These plates are cut with precision by massive hydraulic shears that can slice through 2-inch armor like paper. The sound is deafening, a metallic shriek that echoes off concrete walls and makes conversation impossible. The hull takes shape first. Engineers designed it with sloped sides at precise angles, not for aesthetics, but for deflection. A bullet striking at 30 degrees has a far greater chance of ricocheting than one hitting perpendicular. This geometry was calculated in wind tunnels and firing ranges, tested with live ammunition until the optimal angle emerged, 55 degrees from vertical. Workers position the plates on massive jigs, metal frameworks that hold everything in perfect alignment. Then come the welders. These men are artists of destruction, their torches dancing across seams with mathematical precision. Each weld must be flawless. A weak joint means a crack under stress. A crack means shrapnel spraying through the crew compartment. A flaw here is measured in lives. The armored plates are 14.5 millimeters thick on the front and sides, enough to stop rifle rounds and most machine gun fire, but light enough to keep the vehicle mobile. Weight is the eternal enemy. Too heavy, and the Hanomag becomes a sluggish target. Too light, and it becomes a coffin. In a separate section of the factory, the power plant waits. The Maybach HL42 TUKRM engine, a water-cooled, 6-cylinder gasoline engine producing 100 horsepower. It doesn't sound like much by today's standards, but in 1938, it was cutting-edge technology adapted from luxury car production. Technicians assemble each engine by hand. The crankshaft is balanced to within a fraction of a gram. The pistons are fitted with tolerances measured in hundredths of a millimeter. Fuel injectors are calibrated on test benches where every engine must run for 2 hours straight at full throttle before approval. If it fails, it's torn down and rebuilt. There are no second chances in war. The transmission is equally critical. A ZF Afon FG35 gearbox with 7 forward gears and 3 reverse. This complexity allows the Hanomag to crawl at walking speed during urban warfare or sprint at 52 km per hour on open roads. The driver needs to master a delicate dance of clutch and throttle, especially on the Eastern Front where mud can swallow a vehicle whole if momentum is lost. But the true genius lies in the tracks. The Sd.Kfz 251 uses a half-track configuration, wheels in front, tracks in rear. This hybrid design gives it the speed of a truck and the traction of a tank. The tracks are assembled link by link, each steel shoe connected with hardened pins that must withstand thousands of kilometers of punishment across every terrain imaginable. Frozen tundra, burning desert sand, muddy bocage, shattered city streets. Workers test each track section on rollers, listening for the rhythm of metal on metal. An irregular sound means misalignment. Misalignment means broken tracks in combat. Broken tracks mean death. The crew compartment is where engineering becomes philosophy. How do you balance protection with visibility? How do you give men a fighting chance without turning their vehicle into a blind box? The answer: open-top design with armored sides. Controversial. Dangerous. Brilliant. An open top means vulnerability. Lighty to artillery airbursts and grenades. But it also means unobstructed vision, rapid entry and exit, and the ability to fire weapons in any direction. The designers gambled that speed and firepower would compensate for overhead exposure. They were mostly right. The interior is Spartan. 2 rows of bench seats run along the sides, each capable of holding 5 Panzergrenadiers plus their equipment. The floor is riveted steel, cold to the touch even in summer. There are no luxuries here, no padding, no cushions, no comfort. Just hard metal and the knowledge that these walls are all that stand between you and a hailstorm of bullets. At the front, the driver sits behind a small armored visor with a narrow slit for vision. To his right, the vehicle commander operates the radio, a critical lifeline to battalion headquarters. Communication wins battles. Isolated units die alone. Mounting points line the interior walls. These hardpoints accept a bewildering array of weapons: MG-34 machine guns, MG-42s, Panzerbuchs 39 anti-tank rifles, even 37mm pack guns in specialized variants. The Hanomag is not just a transport, it's a mobile weapons platform that can suppress enemy positions while its infantry dismounts. By 1940, Hanomag production hits full stride. The factory operates 24 hours a day in 3 shifts. Women join the workforce as men are conscripted to the front. They prove just as capable, perhaps more so, in the delicate work of electrical systems and instrument calibration. Each Sd.Kfz 251 takes approximately 300 man-hours to complete from raw steel to finished vehicle. The process is broken into stations. Station 1, hull fabrication, cutting, bending, welding. Station 2, drivetrain installation, engine, transmission, axles. Station 3, track assembly and mounting. Station 4, electrical systems, wiring harnesses, lighting, ignition. Station 5, armament mounting and testing. Station 6, final inspection and proof testing. At Station 6, each vehicle undergoes a brutal evaluation. Drivers run it through an obstacle course that includes trenches, steep grades, water crossings, and high-speed turns on loose gravel. Mechanics check for leaks, loose fittings, and any sign of structural weakness. Armorers test-fire the weapon systems with live ammunition. Only after passing every test does a Hanomag receive its Wehrmacht tactical number and shipment authorization. From this factory, it will travel by rail to staging areas in Poland, France, North Africa, or the Eastern Front, wherever the war demands its presence. Variants. The evolution of purpose. The beauty of the Sd.Kfz 251 design is its modularity. The basic chassis can be adapted for dozens of specialized roles. Sd.Kfz 251-1 OSF. D. Standard troop carrier, backbone of the Panzer Grenadier divisions. Sd.Kfz 251-2, mortar carrier with 81mm GRW-34 mortar. Sd.Kfz 251-9, Stummel with short-barreled 75mm gun for close support. Sd.Kfz 251-10, anti-tank variant with 37mm pack gun. Sd.Kfz 251-16, flamethrower variant, nightmarish in urban combat. Sd.Kfz 251-17, anti-aircraft with 20mm Flak 38 cannon. Sd.Kfz 251-22, equipped with Pak 40-75mm anti-tank gun. Each variant requires specific modifications at the factory level. Tools are changed, assembly sequences altered, quality control standards adjusted. The factory becomes a living organism, adapting to the demands of total war. By 1944, Hanomag has produced over 15,000 Sd.Kfz 251s in all variants, more than any other German armored vehicle except the Stu-G3 assault gun. They fight on every front, in every climate, under every condition warfare can devise. Reports filter back from the front lines. Officers write detailed after-action analyses. Crew members share stories during factory tours meant to boost morale. The picture that emerges is complex. On the Eastern Front, the Hanomag proves indispensable. Its tracks grip frozen earth and churn through knee-deep mud. Panzer grenadiers used them to keep pace with panzer divisions during the lightning drives of 1941. When winter halts the advance, Hanomags become mobile pillboxes, their machine guns sweeping across white wastelands. But the open top exacts a price. Soviet artillery has a habit of timing its shells to airburst directly over columns. Shrapnel rains down, tearing through exposed crews. Veterans learn to wear their helmets at all times and keep ammunition cans positioned for overhead protection. In North Africa, the Hanomag faces different challenges. Sand infiltrates every mechanism. Engines overheat in 50-degree heat. Water crossings are rare, but when they occur, the Hanomag's sealed hull proves its worth. During the retreat from El Alamein, these vehicles save countless lives by evacuating wounded under fire across open desert. France in 1944 brings urban warfare. Narrow streets. Rubble-choked roads. Ambushes from every window. Here, the Hanomag's maneuverability shines. It can reverse out of kill zones, pivot in its own length, and suppress rooftop snipers with mounted MG-42s firing 1,200 rounds per minute. The crews develop a fierce loyalty to their vehicles. They name them. Paint kill markings. Weld on scavenged armor plates. A Hanomag that brings its squad home alive becomes more than metal, it becomes a brother in arms. But back at the factory, the human cost mounts. Allied bombing intensifies. The RAF sends Lancasters at night. The USAAF sends flying fortresses by day. The Hanomag plant, with its massive roofs and telltale smokestacks, is an obvious target. Air raid sirens become routine. Workers scramble for shelters, reinforced basements hastily converted into cramped refuges. Production schedules slip. Raw materials become scarce as transportation networks crumble. By late 1944, quality control suffers. Some vehicles leave the factory with substandard welds, misaligned tracks, engines that haven't completed their full test cycles. The workers know. They see the flaws. But the demand from the front is insatiable. Every day without a Hanomag means infantry moving on foot. It means casualties. It means lost ground. So they build. They weld. They assemble. Even as Allied armies close in from east and west, even as the factory walls bear scars from near-miss bomb craters, the line keeps moving. When the war ends in May 1945, Allied technical intelligence teams swarm the captured Hanomag factory. They photograph everything, measure everything, catalog every tool, every technique, every design feature. What they find impresses them. The Sd.Kfz 251 is over-engineered by American standards, too complex, too expensive, too time-consuming to produce. But its battlefield effectiveness is undeniable. The U.S. Army's own M3 half-track, simpler and cheaper, lacks the Hanomag's cross-country mobility and crew protection. Post-war analyses conclude that the Sd.Kfz 251 was perhaps the best armored personnel carrier of World War II. Its design influenced every subsequent generation of mechanized infantry vehicles, from the American M113 to the Soviet BTR series to the modern Bradley fighting vehicle. The Hanomag factory itself is dismantled. Some machinery is shipped to the Soviet Union as war reparations. Some is sold for scrap. The buildings are repurposed for civilian production, farm tractors, commercial trucks, civilian buses. But the ghost of the Sd.Kfz 251 lingers in military museums worldwide. Restored examples sit in places like the Deutsches Panzermuseum, the Bovington Tank Museum, the U.S. Army Ordnance Museum. Veterans visit them, their hands trembling as they touch the cold steel that once protected them. They remember the roar of the Maybach engine, the clatter of tracks on stone, the smell of cordite and diesel and fear. They remember when these machines were not museum pieces but instruments of survival, armor-plated lifeboats in an ocean of violence. Today, a handful of Sd.Kfz 251 still run. Private collectors maintain them with fanatical devotion, sourcing rare parts, fabricating replacements, keeping the mechanical heart beating. At military reenactments, these vehicles rumble to life, and for a moment, history breathes again. The Hanomag was never the fastest, never the most heavily armed, never the most numerous. But it was there, in the vanguard of Blitzkrieg, in the snows of Stalingrad, in the sands of Tunisia, in the hedgerows of Normandy, in the rubble of Berlin. It was the vehicle that gave birth to modern mechanized infantry. The vehicle that proved armor and speed could transform foot soldiers into a mobile strike force. The vehicle that saved lives even as it served a regime that destroyed millions. Inside the factory that built the Sd.Kfz 251 Hanomag, ordinary men and women crafted an extraordinary machine. They bent steel to their will. They assembled engines with the precision of watchmakers. They created something that would outlive them all, not just in museums, but in every military doctrine that recognizes one simple truth. Infantry without mobility is infantry waiting to die. The Hanomag changed that equation forever.